There's 1,000 stories of what happened here at Gettysburg, and many of those stories we read about in our history books, but one of those that always captures me, always is moving to me, is the story of Elisabeth Thorn. I'm standing behind her monument, one of the rare monuments here at Gettysburg dedicated to a woman, and I love her story because Elisabeth Thorn lived here in Gettysburg on the battlefield. And on July 3rd, she came home after the battle had ended and the soldiers had moved on. And what she came home to was a field, basically her front yard, filled with dead bodies that were decomposing in the heat of the summer. And she took on the task, 7 months pregnant with her 4th child, alone because her husband was deployed with the Army. She took up that task to bury and put those soldiers to rest. She had 2 soldiers that were provided to her to help and aid in that task, that after 2 days, the stench was so difficult, they left. And on her own, she assessed the situation, she looked at the work that needed to be done, she rolled up her sleeves, and she did the work. And she's described as never having even complained. In the heat of the summer, I love this monument because it shows her 7-month pregnant wiping her brow. Why this story means so much to me is that I always feel this connection to Elisabeth. I know her. I know women like her as a military wife, as a mother, and not to say that any of our experiences are even close to what she had to go through here on this battlefield, but that sense of tenacity to see what needs to get done and do the work. I know this. How lonely she must have felt, how daunting that task must have been. And yet, with only the help of her elderly father, she buried 91 of those soldiers. She helped to put 91 of those soldiers to rest here on this battlefield. It's hard not to be moved by her story. It's hard not to feel connected to that. Having been a military wife myself, having been alone many times while my husband was deployed with my 2 young kids, trying to piece it together, I can take comfort in the stories like Elisabeth Thorn, the women that I got to be around, other military wives, and man, the strength that they exude is a constant thing that I'm grateful for having been around, because it forged in me a sense of confidence I never would have had without those challenges, without those difficulties. I read this piece once, and at the end, it captured what I love so much about Elisabeth's story, and I want to share it. War always exacts the highest of prices. Its vestiges are still visible on Gettysburg Cemetery Hill, where some of the combatants were placed by a young mother who cared for them when no one else could bear it, and who eventually found eternal rest in her midst. There's so many stories of what happened on these hallowed grounds, and we can't even possibly know what those leaders did in those moments. But I'm going to always look to Elisabeth Thorn as an example to me in those times of chaos and those times of difficulty, that I can look at the situation, I can see the work that needs to be done, and I can roll up my sleeves and I can get to work. That's what's required of us as leaders.